Hello everyone, this is NS Alters, and originally I had already painted a back to basics that I wanted to show you, but my cat ended up peeing on the card, destroying it, so here we are again, painting on that first neutral layer. So now that the border of the card is covered up, we can start working on the actual art, and we'll be filling in the sky first. And when working with warm colors like reds, orange, and pinks like I'm doing here, you really want to work in a lot of thin layers. Even with strongly pigmented paints, the colors behind will always show through, so in order to get a nice solid color, you just want to do lots of watered down layers so that you can avoid any lumpy textures. The patterning in the sky, along with most of the painting, are very fluid. There's a lot of subtle color mixing, a lot of subtle texturing, so it really just took lots of mixing, lots of application, lots of layering so that I can really get that original watercolor sense that the original painting was made with. So you'll notice that essentially my technique is apply some red, apply some approximate color matching, and then I take the white and the pinkish colors and I layer them over top to give a misty feeling to it. The mountains are all established with that contrast, so the tips of the mountains are darker, and then a little bit of brightness behind them. In this shot, you can see that nicely as I'm just starting to scrape away the lettering. I'm using just a small plastic pick out of 3D printing filament that I sharpened with an X-Acto blade, and then just very carefully scraping away the letters. Essentially the same technique is being used here, except just with white. And white's even harder to cover up the background gray. The gray makes a really good start. The border of the card would definitely show through without it, but you still need multiple layers to hide the gray itself. The white is all applied, and so now we're just going to color match on the magic spell that the character is casting. And I noticed that there was some sort of like watercolor wisps coming off the back of her dress. So in order to add some contrast so that the word enchantment can be read a little easier, I decided to expand on that idea. So here we have a little close-up. You can see I'm putting in the background color of her dress, trying to color match that. And then here I'm coming over with a bit of detail, adding the patterning on top, sort of looks like scales, and then color matching the rest of her dress. Now this flow of green and browns I will afterwards stretch out to much of the left side of the card. But first let's just finish up the casting of that spell. After the color matching, I'm coming in with my fine detailed 5-0 brush, adding in some really thin lines and really sharpening up the edges of the turbulence. Now back to the dress. I'm adding in some details with some harsh white, then using the same watercolor techniques to blend it all together. This is probably similar to how the original card was painted, so it comes off with a convincing effect. Then I was just feathering on those wisps to give it some depth. So here you can see that I've really taken this green color from her dress and I'm expanding it to the rest of the card. I'm also trying to follow the original flow of the card, so her dress sort of swoops down left, her spell sort of swoops top right. So I'm following that motion, and it gives the rest of the art a more organic feel, and feels like it really matches. And you always hear about watering down your paints, keeping your paints thin. I can't stress enough how important that is on a piece like this. You really need those colors to blend smoothly, and only when you're sharpening up the edges of the turbulence, like I'm doing here with the white, do you really need those harsh edges and more thick paints. Then I'm just adding in some leaves. They sit mostly on top of the rest of the art, but even still, I'm going to take a milky white, really watered down, and put it over top of the leaves so that it pushes them into the background and matches the rest of the kind of art style that we have going on. Now, when you're cleaning up the lettering on a card like this, you really want to go slow. You want to have a nice, sharp, but soft tool like a toothpick or a little bit of plastic to scrape away the lettering. It's very easy to scrape off the ink, and unfortunately doing that kind of damage is somewhat irreversible, so just go nice and slow. Then the last step is just to sign my initials, and we're done. And there it is. One back to basics, ready to get peed on by my cat. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing. Or if you'd like to see me paint a specific card, leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.